Podcasting or vlogging? What's best for beginners? Welcome to Tea at Taxevity, where you get insights from insiders, our many clients and friends. I'm Pramod Sharma, your host. I'm the actuary at Taxevity. I help people transfer financial risks with life and health insurance. Our guest today is Nikola Danaylov. Nikola, what do you do when you're not being interviewed?
Well, you see, usually I sit where you sit right now. So usually I'm the one who's asking the questions, or either getting ready to do that or working in the sort of post-production end of things after an interview. So I'm a blogger and a podcaster, and it takes, for me, it actually takes a minimum of 2 or 3 days, and sometimes as long as 1 to 2 weeks to prepare for a single interview. So usually I'm either preparing for an interview or working on publishing one that I've just done.
How many interviews have you completed, roughly?
Well, I think right now I'm at 179.
That's amazing. And how large is your audience?
Well, right now I think I have something like 2.7 million downloads between iTunes and YouTube. I think on YouTube I have 1.4, 1.5 million and 1.3, 1.4 on iTunes. I'm hoping to hit the 3 million mark by New Year's. I have maybe 12,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. On my blog, I get about 50,000 unique visitors a month, and I have probably about 50,000 views per month on YouTube, and I get between 20 to 50,000 downloads a month on iTunes and SoundCloud and places like that. So all in all, there is some overlap between those different platforms, but I've discovered that not all people, some people prefer audio, some people prefer video, some people prefer text. So I would guess that my audience is about somewhere between 100 and 130,000 people a month.
Mm-hmm. You clearly know what you're doing, which is why we're glad to have you as a guest here to share your expertise. When you're doing interviews, why have you done them in both audio and video format? It just seems like that doubles your workload.
So yes and no. What do I mean by that? Basically, it can potentially triple your workload if you are going from audio only to, let's say, a 3-camera interview, broadcast quality interview. Then you may triple or quadruple both your expenditure related to the production cost of an interview, or the post-production time and effort, the equipment required, and all of that. However, that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. And what I mean by that is this. Imagine you can be doing a video or a vlogging interview with video via something like Skype or Zoom. In that case, you require no extra equipment other than your desktop or laptop. And in post-production, let's say when you use the back-end capabilities of Zoom, or when you use a plugin such as Super Tintin or VodBurner for Skype, that can also help a lot on the post-production basis and to kind of cut the back-end editing time. And in this way, in a single effort, you can produce both video and audio, and therefore it doesn't necessarily have to be the case that you have to expend that much your time and effort to provide both video and audio. In fact, I would suggest that, let's say you do Skype interviews, which is how I started, which is what still I do most of up to this day. It just makes sense to have video for a number of reasons. First of all is that if you just have audio, you are unable to read the body language of your interviewee. Reading the other person's body language is actually very important. First of all, it helps to have a better conversation and to sort of time when you jump in to make a point or out and allow your guest to speak and so on. So that's very nice, because if you don't have that sort of visual presence in person, that you can see the other person and make those choices, it's very hard. So doing an interview, let's say just over the phone, I find to be very hard, because all you have is a voice and you have none of the typical visual clues that help you how the other person is feeling. Is he comfortable? Is he uncomfortable? Is he making a very long point, or is he just about to close his point so that you can jump right in, and all those things. So that's one reason to do both video and audio. Another reason to do video is that it allows you to double your impact. What I mean by that is this. I've discovered in my sort of podcasting and vlogging that some members of my audience prefer video as a format to consume my content. Others prefer audio, and others still prefer text, by the way. So the idea here being that the more different forms and shapes you provide your own content in, so that your audience can choose the sort of the medium in which they prefer to consume it, the better it is for you, in the sense that you would reach the wider audience, the highest number of people, and also allow you to spread your message and popularize your podcast. So I personally would say it is best to always do video. That gives you, with a single shot in one interview, the highest impact for your time. And you do not necessarily, as I said in the beginning, have to use very expensive equipment. All you need is your desktop, some software to record your sort of video conferencing, and maybe an hour or two in the end to edit the interview. That's it.
I understand what you're saying, and you've given some really good points, but audio and video are different formats. Are you not creating a compromise when you're doing both at the same time?
So there is usually, there's no such thing as free lunch, right? You would have to spend or pay a price somewhere for what you're doing always, and there usually are compromises. However, to me, it's a kind of a simple cost-benefit analysis. Yes, there's a bit of a cost to do video in addition to audio, but the benefit, in my opinion, greatly overweights the cost, especially if you don't have to invest in expensive camera equipment, and you don't have to do the interviews in person. Then, and if you're using Skype, then the cost is very, very marginal, and mainly it's going to be the extra 1 hour or two that you're going to spend on the back end editing your content. Now, the thing is, though, even if you have audio, you're still probably going to have to touch the final interview in some ways to make it better. For example, you may have to run it through Euphonic or through Levelator to level out the levels between you and your interviewee. You may want to do some filtering in terms of background noises and stuff like that, or increasing the signal to noise ratio and putting down your noise floor and things like that. So a good quality podcast will always spend some time on the back end before it publishes the podcast, and the video is, in the shape that I've described, is only going to add a very little bit. So to me, the cost is minimal and the benefit is enormous.
And I do agree with you, because I've taken pretty well the same path. We're starting off with podcasting, and then you learn about the audio editing, the noise, etc. And then moving to video just seemed like a natural evolution. If someone's starting off today, it sounds like you would recommend they start with video.
Well, it depends also what makes you comfortable, right? So, to be honest, when I was starting, I was very scared for a number of reasons. So first of all, I knew nothing about audio. I knew nothing about video. As you can tell, English is not my first language, so I had some serious concerns about that. I've never had any vocal training, so therefore I don't know exactly how to behave and speak in the best possible way with respect to microphones and things like that, which is, by the way, important, and people do get training for that to be professional broadcasters and so on. And so I was very fearful. And so in the beginning, I started with audio only. That was maybe 5, maybe 6 years ago. But very quickly, maybe within the first 20 episodes, maybe even less than that, I decided to move on and add the video component, simply because I was doing my audio interviews on Skype anyway, and then it was just a tiny little step, as I explained, to get the video, and the benefits were so much greater. So I would say my advice to people is start with what's comfortable for you guys. Some people are just natural in front of a camera. Others are not. I'm not one of the natural ones. I've had to get experience and kind of get comfortable with it and learn about it. So I didn't jump right into the camera. And if you had told me I'd be doing video vlogging or video podcasts, I would have laughed at you in the beginning. But once you get like 10 or 20 audio episodes behind your belt and you feel comfortable, at least that was my own journey, then I was like, well, maybe video is not too hard. And as I discovered, it's not that hard. Others, as I said, have zero problems with cameras or being in front of a camera. And in that case, you can actually start podcasting or vlogging with just an iPhone. Today, we live in a world where most mobile smartphones have amazing cameras. Some of them even have 4K cameras. So you can shoot the whole episode on one of those and then just run the audio through a couple of filters like Euphonic or Levelator or something like that to improve the audio. And you can have both video and audio. And as I said, if you do it on Skype or Zoom, all you need is a plugin or a smart software like Zoom, and that's all taken care of. And of course, every laptop or most desktops today have webcams on them. So that's not so hard. And the software has improved tremendously. When I started, the hardware wasn't quite there. The software was very glitchy, was constantly failing. And the editing suites were not very good. In the last 5 years, podcasting has exploded, which means now we have a wide variety of platforms to choose from. The software has improved, the hardware has improved, and has come down in price tremendously. And so I think it's easier than ever to start today.
What's your key message for the people watching today?
The key message is don't overthink it. Jump in and give it a try, and learn by doing. I think, it's one thing to read a book on how to podcast or how to vlog, how to interview people, and there is definitely a benefit to that, just like there's benefit to, let's say, vocal training and so on. But I think the best way, for me at least, it has been to learn by doing. So I would say, do not delay or seek for an excuse to sort of postpone it, but give it a try. And it's better to make mistakes and learn from them than to stay on the sidelines and not participate. So my key message is give it a try, make the first 5 or 10 episodes. Today that's going to be very low cost. As I said, probably zero, because you can use a smartphone, you can use a laptop, you can use an iPad, you can use a tablet, you can use so many devices that we have anyway. You can post it, you can edit it, you can see what the response is from the audience, and you can see, most importantly, how you like it or not. Because what I've learned is that the key to having longevity in the podcasting world is passion. It's your passion. Is if you're passionate about your work, about your podcast, about your topic, and if you love what you do. And if that's the case, you can have longevity, and if that's the case, you can have an audience. But the thing is, for me, is that you can only discover that after you've started doing it. That's not a theoretical concept. You have to experience it to know if you love it, if you can learn to love it, and if and how you can improve, and what are the best ways for you to learn. So that's my message. Don't hesitate, jump in. It's cheap, it's easy, there's nothing you can lose, and just give it a try and see where it takes you. The world is an amazing place, and you'll be surprised perhaps of the doors that may potentially open for you once you give it a try.
What's the best way for people to reach you?
Well, I am at singularityweblog.com. My podcast is available on SoundCloud, Stitcher Radio, iTunes, YouTube, and Vimeo. And in any of those, you can just search for Singularity One-on-One, and you'll find me.
Thanks very much for dropping by.
My pleasure, Pramod.